Welcome back to Hollywood South Stunts. This is Jody Brockton. I'm here to bring you our second episode with my amazing friend, Christian Stokes. He's got so much going on, I can't tell you about it, so without further ado, Christian Stokes. Hey, please like and subscribe at the end. I want to see more of you. Woo-hoo! Welcome to Hollywood South Stunts News and Entertainment, where you get the latest and greatest information in the stunt world. I'm your host, Jody Brockton, and today we have a 25-year veteran in this business. His name is Christian Stokes, and we're bringing him out. Let's go.
Hey, bringing me out. How you doing?
Oh, bringing him out for all the info.
Yeah,
Have a
so
seat,
good to
buddy.
see you.
Man, so good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me out. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. So how'd you get started in stunts?
So I'm a country boy. I grew up in a little podunk East Texas town called Athens, Texas. And this kind of thing wasn't really on the menu starting out. So I played football. I went to college and I was a cheerleader for a semester. That's a long story. We won't get into that. But but I wound up, oddly enough, I went with my mother on vacation when I was a kid. I was like 19. It was the first year that Universal Studios opened in Florida. And I saw this show. It was called the Wild, Wild, Wild West Stunt Show. And I'm like, man, I want to do that. I want to do that. And I remember walking around the theme park asking, I want an application to fill out. So I had no idea you had to audition. I didn't know what you needed to do. Cut to a couple of years later, I auditioned for a live action stunt show at Six Flags in Dallas. And I go to work for a guy named Ben Rossi. And I had been training kind of as an actor, and I didn't know anything about stunts. And so I got involved in the show, and over the period of that year, I had these veteran stunt guys just teach me everything. I learned everything. I spent years and years and years. Fast forward to 1997, I go and I win the contract at Universal Studios for the Wild, Wild, Wild West Stunt Show. That show that when I was 19 years old, I was like, I want to do. And oddly enough, David Morzo, who's one of our great stunt compatriots, was I saw him when I was a kid. And he was one of the first guys I met when I started doing the show in 97, and it was awesome. What a great relationship, what a great mentor he's been to me over the years. So.
And how did that roll into your movie?
Well, oddly enough, so I spent probably the first 5 years of my career doing the live action stunt stuff, and I got involved originally as an actor in a movie called Monster with Charlize Theron, and she won the Academy Award. And Mama didn't raise no fool. I got in my car and I drove to LA, and
I love it.
And I went to work, and I started with what I knew, which was doing the stunt shows at the theme parks.
Yeah.
And I started building my connections. And those guys in LA, they just don't do stunt work at theme parks. That's like their bread and butter. You know, they're just making some money so they can go after the big stuff. And so that's where, again, Morzo put me to work on Alias. I did work all over LA, working for a bunch of different people. And that's truly where my film and TV career really picked up and took off. So, you know, what's the old saying?
I thought Revolution was pretty exciting.
Well, Revolution
That's
was
one of the
awesome.
things that I just was amazing.
Well,
good show, you know?
You know, it's funny because I spent about a decade in Los Angeles, and I came home to Texas. My mom was ailing, and she's fine now. But I came home to spend some time with her.
Right.
And lo and behold, I met up with my buddy Eddie Davenport, who was doing some stunt doubling on the show, and I helped him out in Los Angeles when he first moved out. And listen, he calls me and says, hey, man, I want to put you in touch with Jeff Wolf, one of the coolest dudes.
Jeff Wolf, one of the
dudes
coolest.
ever, right?
We see you.
And he says, this is kind of payback for helping me out when I was in LA. So that's crazy. That's how the business works. You help somebody, they help you, and you pull each other up, and you just keep pulling each other up. And Revolution, it's certainly a feather in my cap. I doubled Zach Orth on the show, and it was cool. And one of the cool things, one of the biggest compliments to me, is I was able to merge my acting background with my stunt background, and I began to really try to incorporate Zach, the way he'd walk and the way he'd move, and I'd mimic him a lot.
And that's what your job is, basically.
And the thing that I loved about it is I'd be walking away, and one of the crew guys would go, Zach, and I'd turn around, and they're like, oh, crap,
that's the biggest
Christian.
compliment
Like,
on set, for sure, for sure.
So.
Well, that's so cool. Anybody that sticks out in your head, a star that was fun to work with, or
Oh, you know, one of the crazy things is I've never been one to necessarily get starstruck.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was little, I guess you put me in a room with anybody from Star Wars, I'm probably going to go goo goo and gaga. That's my 3-year-old self talking. But, one of the guys I really enjoyed working with was a guy by the name of Kenny Johnson. He's an actor. He did The Shield. We did a movie, I think he did Sons of Anarchy as well. We did a movie called Few Options. And the dude, he's ex-boxer, he's an arm wrestler, and he's just a cool dude. And so we're doing this scene where I'm supposed to get up in his face and throw him around. He's like, man, just, don't be a wuss, man. Don't be a wuss. just give me something.
That's awesome.
So the dude gave me permission because, sometimes when you're interplaying with an actor, you want to be careful. You don't want to cross any lines.
Exactly.
You want to talk about it and make sure that you're on the same page. But the dude gave me permission to handle him with a little less than kid gloves, So we were able to have this really cool moment. And when it was over, he had this big smile. He's like, yeah. And so, I enjoy playing with people that enjoy playing,
Yeah,
so that's cool.
That's cool. Well, tell us about the Universal, the Marvel, tell me about that.
So Marvel Universe Live.
That was so cool.
It's funny because I always say that everything that I've ever done has really sprung up from a phone call that I made in the mid-90s. Read an advertisement in the newspaper about a stunt show. I'd never done a stunt in my life. I called the guys, like, you never know, show up.
Right.
And I did, and they hired me because of my acting background. They didn't have any actors, so they hired me as an actor. And so that job has everything that I've ever gotten in the past 20 years has literally come from that one phone call. If I hadn't made that phone call, my life would be completely different.
Exactly.
And so as I've progressed, I've met people along the way. And this will come from that, and that will come from this. And so I met a guy by the name of Brett Copes. We were doing Batman at Magic Mountain, which I got that job because the guy running the show used to work for Ben, who I work for, and so there's the connection. And it had been 10 years, and I'd been doing all kinds of stuff. I'd moved back to, I was on Revolution at the time.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call from Brett, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm looking for people to help me out to put together some rigging and some stunts for this really cool touring show called Marvel Universe Live, based on the Marvel comics."
Which is huge.
Well, man,
Huge.
First of all, I'm a comic book geek, so the minute I'm
Yeah,
like, "Dude,
right,
what?
of
Marvel,
course,
somebody's
right?
like, somebody's like, oh, okay." So it's I don't want to go. Yeah. And so you want to sure, I might be available. Let's check my schedule. Meanwhile, I'm jumping up and down.
Yeah.
But I end up going to work for these guys, helping to put together Mark Dirksey. I work with Mark Dirksey, the mad scientist of stunt world, man. The guy can make anything happen. It's crazy.
That is so cool.
And so we sat down and we were putting together some air ram stunts. We were doing a couple of ratchet pulls and just trying to make this show. It's the Avengers, and the movies were out.
I know.
And when you
good.
make a live show, you have got to match that action.
And that's what you're good at because you're a comic book geek.
Well, and
so that's
I'm a
all
comic
what's
book
good.
geek. I've got the
That's
acting
super
background.
cool.
I got the stunt
Yeah,
background.
yeah.
So I was able to marry. It was a match made in heaven for me.
Right.
And so I did that for about 6 months, and I really was the guy on the show that made the stunts happen. I painted and suited up the Fireburn guy, made sure he was lit, made sure he was out, and all that cool stuff. I trained the high falls on that show.
Beautiful
I
work,
just
by
did
the way.
a lot. Thank you
This
very
is
much.
amazing.
I
Yes.
loved that.
Yeah, it was
It was
good.
just so much. And about 6 months into it, they lost their performance director, and the cast asked for me to take over as performance director. And so for the next 3 years, I directed the biggest show in the world and
It's a
one of the
huge
coolest
gig.
shows in the world.
Really good gig.
It's not often that you get to say, well,
Nah.
Thor and Wolverine, I'm their boss.
Yeah.
So,
I love it.
So, I did that for a while, and I wound up coming off of it. The show's still going. There's a new
Yeah, I hear
incarnation
it's
of it.
still going. It's a great show.
They're in Europe. There's still things that I wanted to do. I wanted to get into coordination. I wanted to get, I like designing stunt shows. I like the stunt industry, the film industry.
Right.
So when you're traveling around the world and you're in a different town every week, it's hard to
It's
do
hard
that
to create
stuff.
your own project because you're working for someone else.
Yeah.
Now, when you got back, I'm interested in this Westworld. Can you
Right.
explain that a little bit more to people? Because I just learned about it through you.
So this is some really cool new stuff that's happening. I have been fortunate enough to work in the last couple of years with a company called Myco 2. We've been doing a lot of really cool stuff at South by Southwest. It's basically immersive theater, which is like it's crazy because what we would do is there was a cast of I believe we had like 30 actors. We had 6 stunt guys on Westworld, and they would ship in people and dump them off in Sweetwater. They took this ghost town and turned it into Sweetwater, a replica of Sweetwater
Very
from
cool.
Westworld, and people, they would give them white hats or black hats as they entered through the train and opened the door, and they were on the set of Westworld. But we were all in character. Nobody broke character. We were improvising with the audience. We had scripted material with each other, and we put together fight scenes. We had a couple of fight sequences that we would
so
put
cool.
together, and it was crazy. People were so enamored with this thing, and it was so successful. Which I didn't know you could win awards for this stuff. We won an Emmy, right?
Oh my gosh!
We won an Emmy. We won
Congratulations!
Well, thank you.
Excellent,
Yeah,
good stuff. Yeah.
We won a couple of Clios and a Cannes Golden Lion. It was like, wow, you could do that.
Yeah.
And so it was so successful. The next year we did a Game of Thrones. We did the
No,
same
I
thing
think
with
that's
Game of
cool
Thrones.
because I'm definitely a Game of Thrones fan.
You know, I'd only
for 100% like real.
At the time, I'd only seen like the first 2 seasons, and it was the build up to the final season. And in these immersive things, man, these people, they ask you questions that you better know it.
You better know.
You better like go back.
Wow, that's a lot of research for you.
And so I had to go. I watched 2 episodes a day for a month to be
That's not bad.
caught up, right? And I got caught up, and I did my research. I knew everything I needed to know. They asked me to do the sword choreography, so I got a group of stunt guys. I brought them in, and we put together a couple of routines. And what was really cool is people come and go. They would spend about 1 or 2 hours there. So we would put together a couple of routines, and I would verbalize a command in the middle of our fight, and we would know to switch to that routine. So I had the red dragon, red wolf, red bear. And so I would just call out these names, and we would immediately cut to it, and the other guys would do the same. So we had like 6 sword fights going on that were completely different, but at any time we could get on the same page. It was crazy. So
That's awesome.
We really had fun with that. And I had a bunch of dowel rods.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people kept coming up to says, "Hey man, since we're in the 7 kingdoms, can I sword fight?" And at first I'm like, I don't know about that, man. But I had these dowel rods, and I'm thinking about how this is a completely immersive thing. And so I took these people that came in, and I'd line them up 2 at a time, and I would take the dowel rods and I would teach them basic strikes and
That's
basic
cool.
defense.
That's a way to keep it safe.
My God. And you know,
And
it's
then it would
funny.
have them more immersed into it. That's
they
pretty
They
cool.
would fight with me, and that
Yeah.
was all there was to it. They didn't get into anything outside of you know, strike, defend.
Right,
And-
right.
But the line was wrapped around the corner. It was like everybody wants the sword fight in modern America. It's crazy.
Of course,
So,
modern America. Hey, I know you just came off of the New Orleans City Park show.
Yeah.
Called, what is it?
It's
Scout Island
Screen
Screen Park.
So
that's what you just, tell me about that.
So I wear many hats. You know,
I hear you.
In this business, I learned a long time ago that sitting by my phone waiting for it to ring is probably not going to lead to it ringing. So I have been fortunate enough to be a part of a lot of endeavors in the entertainment industry, from live show to stunt work to acting to writing. Which I just sold a television episodic script for the
See, I was
first
going to ask
time,
what you were doing
Yeah.
now. So what is Christian Stokes doing right now?
So,
Tell me.
Christian's up to
Tell
all kinds
us.
of no good. Christian's always got he's throwing spaghetti at the wall and whatever
love it.
sticks.
That's so
he comes to
good.
work. And you know, the Scout Island thing, I'm planning for next season. So I'll finish with that. It's huge. It's like we have 5 haunted houses. We have 2 scare zones. It's very, very akin to what Universal Studios has for Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah.
But we do it at City Park in New Orleans at night, and It's crazy. I put together, I, I put together shows. One of the things I love to do is I put together these really cool stunt shows, and I put together this show this year. First time they've ever had anything like this, and it was called My Bloody Homecoming. And I'm this action guy, and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna have vampire slayers, we're gonna have stakes to the heart, we're gonna have people dying and blood blowing up, and it's gonna be awesome. And there was some of that.
Okay.
But it went a different direction. Shows kind of they become their own things.
Yes.
And so I learned to not fight and let it be what it is. And so I had to go hire a dance choreographer. I've never put together shows. We had swing dancing.
Well, now you can add that to your resume.
I know, it was crazy. So, but I went and hired a good friend of mine named Joni DiPrizio.
Oh yeah, Joni, great. Hey, shout out Joni.
She's a great choreographer, and we put this thing together, and it was really cool. It was really cool.
Awesome.
And so I am at this point. I'm putting the last year to bed. They've asked me to come back and do it again next year, so I'm starting to brainstorm and come up with my ideas for next year. I do kind of want to add some more stunt type attractions to the thing. I'm writing. I just sold a script, an episodic script for a TV show called Underground. And
wow, congratulations.
yeah,
That's so cool.
I got a buddy of mine named Mike Mayhall who made also a guy that he's a stunt guy. He's really started doing well directing. And
very good. Yes.
He was the producer, writer, creator, director for a television show called Bronx SIU. And he was nominated for an Emmy last year as well. And so he reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in doing some writing, because he's branching out and they're doing more and more television episodics, and writing is one of my loves. I've been writing
I
my
know.
whole
You've
life.
loved that forever.
And I've never had a chance to do anything with it other than just create my own project. And so Mike Mayhall's given me the opportunity, and we've got an episode that we just sold, so I'm really excited about that.
Super successful.
And I teach acting classes as well.
This is good.
I was an actor before I even found stunt work.
Where are you teaching these classes
in
at?
New Orleans.
In New Orleans, okay. We want to make sure.
You can find me on Facebook. I'm the blue collar acting coach.
The blue collar acting coach. I love that.
Because look, I come from a family. My dad was a fireman. My mom, she was a bartender.
Yeah.
You're born into this business or you're adopted into it, and I was absolutely adopted into it. And so what I like to do is, there was a period of time in my life where I had no idea. I didn't know what I was doing when it came to plugging in and becoming a stunt guy or getting in the entertainment business. And I had to find my way. And so there was bumps and bruises that I found. I traveled all over the United States. Things really took off when I got involved in Orlando and Universal Studios, and the connections that I made that actually that are worldwide now.
Right.
And all those gigs led to other gigs. Work begets work. Good work begets more good
exactly,
work.
Exactly. And it's when you're not in the business, when you start out not in the business,
it's
you've got to double prove yourself.
It's overwhelming.
It's really, really difficult. And to even make it in,
Sure.
I commend you for that, because it is a very difficult business to break into.
It is.
But now you're giving inspiration to people out there,
that
the people that are coming up. You don't have to be born in this business. You can actually get into it, but you got to do your due diligence. You got to get in there and what inspiration and what advice can you give not only the up and coming people that are coming into the business, but the people that are already out there doing it? Because we got 2020 coming up, and we know hustling is way different than it used to be.
But things are completely different. Listen. All
right, so yes, please tell.
I think at the end of the day, you've got to be true to yourself.
Gotcha.
The inspiration that I would give you, no matter if you're just starting out or if you've been doing this a while, you've got to be true to yourself. You got to do the things that make you happy. Life's way too short, and I would have never made it in the 9-to-5 world.
I hear you. I hear you.
I mean, that's not a put down to the 9-to-5ers, because
someone's got to do it.
That's important work.
Yeah, for sure.
It's important work that I'm just not.
Well, everyone's created it differently, so this is good.
And I'm this. I like to do, and I I like the variety and the challenges that this industry brings. And listen, there's mountain highs and there's valley lows, and that's part
Well,
of
that's
it too.
the truth. You've got to be ready for the lows as well as the highs in this business.
And
so I just give them one piece of advice that you would give them for hustling in 2020. What's the best way? Do you like to receive emails or
emails for me is perfect. And,
Okay.
and I would really say do your due diligence. Find
Okay.
out, because every coordinator is different.
Yeah.
I've got some coordinating work coming up that's in pre-production right now.
Gotcha.
For me,
So that's what's in the future for
I've
Christian.
got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I keep a lot of
Like it,
fires,
like
a lot
it.
of coals in the fire,
Yeah.
because that's the way I make sure that I stay busy and stay working and get food on the table. And for me, look, I'm laid back, I'm easygoing. Anybody can approach me at any time, as long as just make sure that you're respectful. If we're in the middle of a shoot, or if we're doing something, my attention needs to be on the shoot itself. My advice, hustling wise, is once you find a location, try to find when lunch is and come around lunch.
There you go. Come around lunch, guys.
Come
Not in
around
the middle of
lunchtime,
shooting.
not in the middle of shooting, and give your coordinator a chance to sit down and eat. Because he's
Exactly.
been busy, he's working, he's got stuff going on. He may have to do some notes and do some planning for later in the day. But give him a second to get his thoughts together. And then approach him. But listen, not all coordinators are cool with that either. So you've got to really do your due diligence and find out what coordinators are cool with you coming and hustling, and which ones are not. I know guys that have lost work because they hustled guys that weren't cool with it. And it's usually the old school guys. There's a certain way they want to do things, and the up and coming guys. Most of those guys hustle, so they're really cool with the hustling thing.
Yeah, they don't mind the hustling thing.
Yeah,
Well, that's
and-
good information.
Absolutely.
That's good advice.
And don't be afraid. I mean, it's part of the deal. It's part of the business. I hear a lot of people say, "Well, hustling makes me nervous." Well, I mean, it does, because you want to put on a good face, you want to make a good impression. But
Yeah.
but make sure don't let it intimidate you. We understand that's part of the business. We all have to do it too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is great advice. All right, before we get to the end of this interview,
I'll just keep on going.
keep on going. Before we get to the end of this interview, where can people find you?
Well, everybody can find me on Facebook. First, that's easy. Christian Stokes on Facebook. It's usually, social media is my catch-all, simply because I have such a network of contacts, and they're all over the country, and that's the easiest place for people to find me. I also have a website, www.christianpstokes.com. I had
good.
to count my W's.
The
So those are the best places to find me.
Okay.
If you're interested in acting classes, and listen, I say to all stunt guys, there's a lot of work out there for stunt guys that can act. If you have a knack for acting, there's a lot of action. In today's, you turn on TV, there's action. And the majority of my work has come from doing stunt work where I have to act, or even in some cases, I've been hired as an actor, and when they find out that I can fight and do these various things, I get the job.
You're double threat there. Yeah, it's all good.
So use every skill you have available in your toolkit. And if you're looking for training for that, I'll be more than happy to help you. You can find me at the bluecollaractingcoach.com.
That's good.
Sorry, and on Facebook is the Blue Collar Acting Coach as well.
Perfect.
I'm all over the place. And if you want to do some crazy Halloween stuff next year,
Yeah, he's got a
Springfield.
job for you.
Yeah.
All right, finally, Christian, what is the inspiration you want to share with the world? And then I want you to give me your favorite motivational quote.
Well, listen, if I can leave anything with anybody, it would be this. When we did the Marvel Universe live show, we traveled a lot, and some of those kids were brand new to the business, and they were coming up, and they were all looking at the big prize, like, I'm going to do this. It's my stepping stone to do that. But sometimes we would perform for children, the disability, kids with disability, or that were terminally ill and all that stuff, and we would have shows where we had 100 of those kids. And let me tell you something. On days like that, in our warm-up speech, I would tell the guys that they're there because to those kids, like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, when
Yeah,
they come up, those
yeah.
kids, we were their last wish, you know what I mean?
Right.
To come and hang out with Captain America.
Some
to come and hang
serious
out.
business there.
So
yeah.
what we do, a lot of people are like, well, you know, it's stunts. How's that change the world? Well, it changes the world one person at a time. Because for people like that, for kids like that really, they believe in us, you know? They believe in what it is we're doing, and we owe it to them to put on and be the best that we can be
Gotcha.
for them. In my opinion, that's the most purest form of fan, because they don't do it for any other reason other than the fact that they love what you do and what you bring to the table. And so I would say, motivationally speaking wise, do this not for the money, not for the riches, but because of the joy that it brings, whether it brings it to you or it brings it to someone that's sitting back in their home that you know, they live life vicariously through the action that we perform, you know?
Yeah.
So I would honestly say, you know, there's a lot of people out there that enjoy what we do and treasure that, value that.
Treasure that.
You know?
Yeah, that is great inspiration for me as well, because I love doing it because of that. Now, can you give me your favorite motivational quote?
So, ancient Chinese secret, yeah? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one baby step. And I say that because this industry, whether it be stunts, whether entertainment, acting, whatever, it can be overwhelming when taken as a whole. When you look at this industry, it's like, wow, where do I start? How do I get from point A to B, let alone Z?
Right.
Where do I begin? Well, you begin at the beginning. You start. You just begin, and you take that one little baby step, and then you will reach the 1,000-mile mark. But it's only going to begin if you take that first baby step, and then focus on the little things, one right after the other, so that before you know it, you look back and you're like, wow, look
this
where
is how
I've
far.
come.
Yes.
And honest to God, Podunk, Texas, 20 years later, I look back and I'm like, wow, what a journey. My feet are tired.
Oh my gosh, guys, this has been an amazing interview with Christian Stokes. I'm so glad my friend was able to make it. Stay tuned to more episodes, look him up, and always be fearless.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned next week for Heather Vendrell Arthur. That should be a good one too. All right, you guys, have a blessed day.